So thinking again about Jackson Pollock and moving to that next slide, here we have his mural from 1943. This is his largest work that he ever did. It was originally commissioned by Peggy Guggenheim of the Guggenheim Museum fame, who is a major art collector and gallerist at the time. So like we have these lines moving, I think we can also talk about the waves. There's a lot of movement happening in this mural. It can feel like, like a really chaotic environment because of the color scheme, because the colors aren't super bright. They're, they're like light, but they're not bright. So they're kind of light and dull. It doesn't feel as overwhelming as if it was all like neon, right? So the muted color scheme kind of helps it feel a little bit more peaceful, even though it also feels like there's a lot of movement going on. There's like shapes of color, right? So remember that shape doesn't have to be like a perfect square, but it could be a little bit more free form. And so you do have these like patches of particularly like the yellows that kind of go in between the like darker lines. This is another reason why I think Jackson Pollock is a really great starting point for us this time. This mural from 1943 is before his kind of more action-oriented splatter paintings, but he's kind of starting to develop those techniques here. He literally laid it down on the floor of a barn, and he took house paint, so not, fancy oil paints that artists are normally using, literally would just splatter it and like kind of use his arms to like fling the brush so that the paint would kind of scatter over the canvas. So he was certainly designing it and composing it as he went along and using his eyes to kind of decide where to try to fling the paint. He's also separating his brain a little bit from the actual action of the work. For him, it would be quite meditative to do this, right? You're not caught up in your head so much, but you are engaged with your eyes and with your body in making this work. And it's not about overthinking things or saying, I am setting out to, paint this, 15th century Duke and his dog, and it has to be exactly perfect, right? There's a little bit more play and experimentation happening in his work, and I think that reminds me a lot of what happens with projects like these Ethereals. So there's, you get the computers scanning thousands and thousands of images, and then taking all of that information and that data and kind of putting it into something else. It's not the same as if, a portrait painter is sitting down and saying, okay, I have to paint a portrait of this person. There's a little bit more freedom and room for play, and you get results that are sometimes surprising. They aren't the same, right? There's definitely different things going on. But you can see how this painting might have been put in with another 100 paintings to be some sort of basis of inspiration, on down the line for the algorithm.